time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Hey, welcome everybody. Happy Wednesday. It is time for another episode of the Voice of Indie podcast. This is episode number 218. I am your host, Beem Weeks, and with me is Mr. Stephen Gies. How am I sounding this week, Stephen?
You sound like a little girl, about 7 years old, probably from...
Oh, my goodness.
No, you sound great.
Okay, so I'm going to kill my phone then, because I had this ready to go just in case we had the same issue we had last week. So. All right.
I heard our guest react in the background. Speaking of our guest in the background, we've got a book in pre-sale now, A Noble Bargain, which is book 2 of the Bargainers series by tonight's guest, Jan Sikes. That's 2 books in the series out now. His second one is in pre-sale for a couple of weeks. It's going to be released at late October, and it's the ebook that we have up right now, because when we put the print books up, we found Amazon goes ahead and sends them out, whether they're still in pre-sale or not. So right now the pre-sale is for the ebook, and then probably a week and a half or so we'll put the print books up. So if you're thinking of a print book, you can wait a little bit longer, but if you want to jump on that ebook, now's a good time. A Noble Bargain, book 2 of the Bargainer series by Jan Sikes.
Yeah, and speaking of A Noble Bargain, I am hard at work on the book trailer for that one, so keep your eyes and ears open and get the newsletter, and you'll find out when it's out, when it's posted to the YouTube channel. Journey Through the Lens, Guide to Nature Photography by Angie Birmingham is out now, and it is a really cool book. Out now, very cool book. Mm-hmm. So cool pictures, and if you like the pictures in there, Angie will teach you how to take pictures of your own, just like that. And you too can be a professional photographer.
Yeah, or at least one hell of an amateur one.
Yeah,
so we've got another
thing. Just a second here. Speaking of Angie Birmingham, if you missed it last week, she's in the archive. We had her on last week. A great show, lots of callers that called in with cool questions about photography, and it ran the gamut from digital cameras to old film cameras. So go look for that on Fresh Ink Group at YouTube. So there you go.
Yeah. Got another book out now for sale. Get your copy by Carlisle Thomas. This is Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch. That's the one with the cool hippie-looking 60s cover. It's a great novel. It's a story set in the 60s, and it's typical Carlisle Thomas. I mean, he doesn't pull any punches. He's got the real stuff in there. So, Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch by Carlisle Thomas. It's a novel, and it's out now.
And we have a book trailer for that one, and it's like the 4th or 5th edition of that book trailer, but we finally got it right. So, get over to YouTube. And speaking of new books that are out now, Nell Cooper's Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow is out. It's available. It's a really wonderful story that Nell wrote. This is her first novel, or her first book was for children. This one's for adults. It's an adult novel, but not in the dirty sense. It's just more adult reading. And really good story. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I gave it 5 stars, and I think if you enjoy good stories, you're going to enjoy it too. If you want to be part of tonight's show, you want to call in or leave a comment or a question on X, here's how you can go about doing that.
Call 516-453-9902 right now with your questions or comments for tonight's guest. Or post a note on Twitter with hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body of the tweet, and we'll read it on air. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group on Twitter.
All right. Got another book that's out now. This is Operation Vela Redux by Robert G. Williscroft. It is the 5th book in the Mac McDowell Mission series, the one that started with Operation Ivy Bells, which continues to be a bestseller to this day. So Operation Vela Redux, a Mac McDowell Mission by Robert G. Williscroft is out. Now, as soon as we put that thing up, within a day or two, we found there were a couple of minor problems with a couple of images and some of the chapter layout. So we have revised that and put those new files back up, which means that if you already purchased this book and got one of the first couple of copies that were printed, you now have a rare collector's edition of a version of a first edition of a book that got changed after just a couple were printed. So, hey, Operation Bella Redux, not just for sci-fi fans, but for book collectors too. That's by Robert G. Willis Croft. Get out there and check it out, and check out that whole series. If you're into submarine-based Cold War thrillers, this is the ones.
All right. I Remember Judy by Verwayne Greenhoe is out now. So get over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or wherever it is that you buy your books and grab a copy. And speaking of Verwayne, he's got a message here. He's the first one to chime in tonight on Twitter. He says, good evening. As always, Lisa, all four dogs and I are here huddled around the old Philco radio, Diet Cokes, Milk Bones, and wavy potato chips at the ready to listen to Beem and Steven with Jan Sikes. So thanks for tuning in, Verwayne. We hope that you are recovering from the hit from the hurricane down there. And what's that, about 4 hurricanes this year he's been hit by?
Yeah, at least.
There's a lot of them. So
yeah, if you go to iStock now, they got a picture of his house. If you search hurricane, it just brings up his house.
Yeah. Stay safe, Verwayne.
Yeah.
And Lisa.
Now, next week's guest is going to be Janelle A. Jordan, who's the author of Minority Millennials in the Workforce. But we've got a new book that's coming out by her probably about Monday or so. And this one's The Reality, and real is all caps, the reality of interpersonal leadership, a guide to leading authentically. This is a cool book. It's a professional development. It's about being a leader, not just in the workplace, but in life in general. And she's got little worksheets for each chapter where you can put your own notes down and, kind of develop your skills as you go too. So Janelle A. Jordan's The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership, a guide to leading authentically, should be out by next week's podcast when Janelle will be our guest.
All right. Also coming out within the next couple of weeks, Loretta Spencer, A Passion for Service, a candid memoir by the first woman mayor of Huntsville, Alabama. This is a really cool book. This woman spent her life in public service down there in Huntsville, and it's her story, and she's got some cool photos and things that go along with it. And so if you're into great historical women, this is a book for you. Loretta Spencer, A Passion for Service.
Yeah, this book was kind of fun to work on, especially too. Huntsville is about 40 minutes from where I live. So I went and participated in in-person meetings with her as we were developing some of the elements that are going into this book. And boy, that woman's got stories. She's 87 years old. She served 3 terms as mayor of the city that is now the biggest city in Alabama. Huntsville bypassed Birmingham this past year.
Wow.
The biggest city in Alabama. And a lot of that is owed to her. All of her economic development and efforts and things that she did and stuff. But like I say, you talk about some behind-the-scenes dirty politics, get down and squeeze a guy and make him do what you want him to do so you can do something good. She's got stories like that are just really cool. So, and some of those get into the book too, which is a lot of fun. That's Loretta Spencer book I'm looking forward to. But we got another one we're looking forward to, The Chair 5. That's the 5th book in Robert McKenzie's Chair series. And that one is slated to come out in about 3 weeks, so it should be out before the end of October. If you're a fan of Mackenzie's Chair series, look for book 5. If you're not a fan of Mackenzie's Chair series, you should be. Get out there and start with number 1.
Yeah, and Robert McKenzie will be back on this show when that book hits or just before it hits, or as it's hitting, or maybe a week after it hits, whatever. He'll be back on this show, so pay attention and find out when that's going to be, and be sure to tune in. Audiobook update. I'm working on the Robert G. Willis Croft audiobook for Keyed, and I'm should be finishing up Chapter 4 potentially tomorrow. It depends on what's all on the platter. I'm trying to clear some of that space to finish up Chapter 4. That's moving along nicely. This one's been relatively easy and a lot of fun. I enjoy working on these audiobooks, especially Robert Willis Croft's books, because they're just so cool with the sound effects and all this good stuff. And so hopefully that in another month or so, that should be ready to go. And how you can find out is by subscribing to our newsletter. And if you're not already subscribed to it, we're kind of bummed out. But here's your chance to remedy that. Here's how you can subscribe.
Stay on top of these podcasts and all things Fresh Ink Group with our weekly digital newsletter, new releases, videos, stories, excerpts, interviews, and more. Sign up now on the homepage of freshinkgroup.com and be the one who knows what's what.
What?
Yeah. Now, Beem, you remember down in Mobile, Alabama, there's a submarine down there that's available for touring. I think next time you're in Alabama, we should load up a whole bunch of those submarine sounds on our phones and then take the tour and then just randomly play sounds. See if we can get them to jump. Wait, who turned the klaxon on?
Yeah, we went through there that one time, but we didn't take the tour of the sub. We probably should have.
It was too late. It was closed for the day, or they were about to close it or something like that.
Because there were a lot of people pouring out of it. So.
Yeah, there was a battleship that we could have toured too, but it was too late. But we'll do that next time. Now, let's look at the top 25 print bestsellers from Fresh Ink Group. I know it's a long list. I try to get through it fairly quickly, but I can't help but take advantage of the idea to mention the names of our books and our cool authors. So let's fly through this, but I'll tell you, the bottom 13 out of 25 are tied. So, in no particular order, the bottom 13 in our top 25 print bestseller, I want to specify print, this is not ebooks, is There Must Be Something in the Water, Anthology of the Fourth Generation, Descendants of Green Pond After the Emancipation by Abigail Hugueny. And the next one on the list above it is Mr. President, I've Got Your Back, The First Ladies of South Carolina State University by Abigail H. Hugueny and Mary L. Smalls, two former First Ladies of South Carolina State, who have written a wonderful historical book that covers the role that these second-in-command, if you can dare call them that, ladies who supported their husbands as presidents through the years, and what a contribution they made too. So it's great to honor those people and tell their stories. We got J. Ash Looney on the list here a couple of times. We got The Trial of William Shakespeare, a dramatization of the authorship controversy in which the audience renders a verdict. It's cool. He's a playwright. He's written a lot of other kinds of stuff too, but he's a real good playwright. And most of his plays wind up getting produced. And this is a fun one where they put William Shakespeare on trial, and the audience is the one that winds up rendering the verdict. We got also by J. Ash Looney, Whoopi Likes Her Bacon Crispy, 65 fascinating excerpts from the memoirs of famous and infamous women. This one is full of cool artwork, caricatures of all 65 of these women that were custom done for this book. And then they're long quotes. They're not like a sentence or two. Some of them page and a half, which is very, very cool. Also in this tied in the bottom 13 slots, another J. Ash Looney, Figuratively Speaking, Thesaurus of Expressions and Phrases. That's one of his two what we call word books, which are still, after 4 or 5 years now, selling very well and doing especially well in India.
Those have been around longer than 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm leaning more towards 10.
Yeah. I'm going to guess 7, but we'll leave it at that. We've got Celebrate 98, the untold stories behind the Tennessee football Vols' 1998 national championship, and this is by Off the Hook sportscaster Dave Hooker. He's a sports reporter, not a sportscaster, and sometimes there's not that much of a difference. But Dave's book was published in time for college football season last year. And Beem, I don't think it ever dropped off this top 25 bestseller list.
I don't believe it has.
If it did, it was just for a minute, and it came right back. So college football, people, year-round. And right now, Tennessee is ranked, 4? Something like that. So this is looking like a good year for Tennessee. If you're a college football fan, this is a cool book. Now, the next two are Andrew McGregor's How to Paint an American. The paperback and the hardcover are both selling exactly the same numbers of copies. So what do you think of that?
All right.
Now, Operation Counterpunch by Mark Marlowe is in this bottom 13 of the top 25, and that's definitely a thriller, military thriller that's Korea-based, which it's a cool story. We've got Phil Lippert's Crimes and the People Who Commit Them, Fiction and Conviction by the Guy Who Did the Time. And this was material that was written by Phil Lippert while he was serving time in prison for being, accessory to murder? Something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, he was involved in something where a couple of conversations were had, and some other guy went out and wound up committing a murder, and they tagged him too, as being involved. So he wound up spending 30 years, was it? Something like that.
28, 30 years.
Yeah, a lot of time in state prison, and he spent his time writing, and we are happy to publish some of that material for him. So Crimes and the People Who Commit Them, Fiction with Conviction by the guy who did the time but is now out and living in, Peru, South America?
Somewhere down there.
Somewhere down there. We've also got American Agony, The Opioid War Against Patients in Pain by Dr. Helen Burrell. That's getting to be one that's on here fairly often as well. Now, the only other one that we've got in this bottom 13, which means it could have been at the top of the 13, could have been at the bottom, but tied with the rest of these 13, Operation Ivy Bells, a Mac McDowell mission by Robert G. Williscroft. That's the first of 5 Mac McDowell mission books, and those are definitely cool books, and as Beem said earlier, they are cool audio books too. Now, this brings us to the next crop, and this is interesting. The next 5 are tied. And in those, we've got Daddy Yo-Yo and the Legendary Marble Tournament by Dr. Janice D. Toney. That's a children's chapter book about bullying that's illustrated. We've got newscaster, NBC evening newscaster out of Chattanooga, David Carroll's I Won't Be Your Scapegoat. David Carroll's Homemade Social Media Blunders. This is the one where he combed the internet and found where people had posted stuff that was unintentionally funny, misspelled, misstated. Even the title, David Carroll's Homemade Social Media Blunders, points that up as well. We've got, let's see here, one more. I did miss one in those. No, this is in the 5 that are tied. We've got Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow by Nell Cooper, and that, Beem, is the hardcover edition. You liking that book, Beem?
Oh, big time! Yeah, that's a wonderful story. It's Nell is just a fantastic storyteller. So. Yeah, you're gonna want to get a copy if you like good stories.
Yeah, she wrote her first book was a chapter book for kids about a pony that was being bullied, and then she waited a long time to write the next one. But she worked on several books, and we're proud to have this one, and we've got looks like at least 1 or 2 more coming from her in the near future as well. So congratulations. Getting that high on the list this quick is not that easy to do, and we still got to figure out where your paperback edition is. It may be on this list, too. Now, one more in that second group of ties. What do you think of this, Beem? Journey Through the Lens, Creative Guides to Miniature Photography by Angie Birmingham. That thing's been out for a day or two, and it's already moved up into the top 12 or so on our print bestseller list, and that's the paperback edition. I got my copy in the mail yesterday. I bought the hardcover edition, and man, that's a cool book. And I worked on it. I helped put it together. I worked on the images and did all that kind of stuff. But seeing it come in the mail and opening it up and feeling it and smelling it and maybe rubbing up against it a little bit, nothing can beat the fun of having a new book like that. So, Beem, this gets us to 2 more. The next 2 on the list are tied. And they are the hardcover edition of Celebrate 98, The Untold Stories Behind the Tennessee Football Vols' 1998 Championship by Dave Booker, and The Rise and Fall of a Construction Giant, The History, People, and Stories of CFW Construction by Dick Farrer, Jr. It seems we talk about this book pretty much every week. We published this thing more than 200 years ago, and it's still riding our bestseller list. So it was a small little regional book about a local company in Fayetteville, Tennessee by the old feller who lives there and was the son of the founder. And, we just thought this is a cool little book, little piece of history. They'll have some copies of it in the library up there at Fayetteville. We'll make a couple of dollars, and Dick Farrer, Jr. will have helped preserve the legacy of his family and his father and all that was accomplished. Instead, it's turned into a darn bestseller. So congratulations, Dick Farrer, Jr. They're buying copies of your little book about Fayetteville, Tennessee company in Indonesia. So write it while you can. Now, this gets us to the top 5. The top 5, 5 and 4 are tied. 5 and 4, Abigail Hay Chugini and Mary L. Smalls, Mr. President, I've Got Your Back, the First Ladies of South Carolina State University. Now, again, that's not a really broad appeal kind of a book. It's specifically about the people at South Carolina State University. But it's selling well, and right now the hardcover edition is in our top 5. Another one that's tied for the top 5, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip, paperback edition by Mark Herndon. And who's Mark?
Mark played drums for 28 years for the Country Music Hall of Fame band, Alabama.
Yeah, Mark's a cool feller. Top 3, and now the numbers really start to jump up. No more ties in this group. Number 3, this is a memoir of 60 chapters by retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Jerry Pate. Submariner, 30 years of hijinks and keeping the fleet afloat, with a little bit of editing and assistance from Robert G. Williscroft, a fellow submariner, is now our number 3 bestseller in print, paperback edition. Congratulations, Jerry. Top 2, Beam. Hardcover edition of a Country Music Hall of Fame drummer's book called, what is it?
It's The High Road. He's taking the high road.
The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip by Mark Herndon. That gets us to number 1. So what's our number 1 print bestseller this week? It's a paperback edition of a novel. And it's by Nell Cooper, Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow. Congratulations, Nell.
Right.
That's 2 or 3 weeks in a row, I believe, that you've held that number 1 spot. So
fantastic.
Go Nell. Let's see that next book. So congratulations to all of our authors. I'm sure all of the rest of you were only one notch below those top 25, but we're always proud to see everybody performing well and see how much legs some of these books have. Because the way publishing industry used to work for a long time was the way that the movie industry worked for a long time. You put your product out, you advertised the bejesus out of it, you sold as many as you could, and then the thing wound up in the remainder bins or at the drive-in theaters, if we're talking about movies. Back when they had drive-in theaters, yes, I'm that old. And Beam is too. But, the movie industry changed when you started having videos and streaming and VHS tapes and stuff like that. So now movies don't die after that initial plunge. Well, print on demand now has made it so that books don't die after those initial printings. Now, somebody like Stephen King, they're going to print more copies because they sell so many and they sell so fast. But a whole lot of marginal sellers, they just don't get printed again out there in the real world. And that's it. Then they die. The few leftover copies wind up in remainder bins. And if you want to read the book, you got to go find it in the library somewhere. So we're real happy with how this print-on-demand thing has played out over the years. This is allowing people to keep their books alive in print out there, possibly finding new audiences for many years to come, and in some cases, even after we've lost the author who originally wrote the book. So, again, congratulations, everybody.
Yeah, and we got a social media guy, Sam, who still promotes these books, too. So he's promoting them on Instagram, X, Facebook. So the promotion is still there as well. That's why you see a lot of these books still, 8, 9-year-old books still popping up in the list there. Speaking of drive-ins, we're going to go to a commercial here, but speaking of drive-ins, we still have a drive-in up here, not too far from me over in Coldwater, the Capri Drive-In. It's been there since the 50s, and it's still open. There was one family that's pretty much owned it throughout from the beginning. The old man that started it, he passed away, but his kids took over, and I think they sold it here not too long ago to somebody else. They're still keeping it open, though, and it's kind of interesting that there's still one of those up here. So.
Well, yeah, and I've got a drive-in story that I found that was kind of interesting. You know how malls are basically dying. Most of them are either going out of business or they're losing stores and dropping off the amount of traffic that they get quite a bit because malls are just too expensive to operate compared to the way other things work now. There's a mall down here in Birmingham, Alabama that we went to the other day because they have a store in there that they rented and built model train setups like Sam, our media guy, did up in Tennessee with his train group. So Braden Dexter Green, who's putting together the book Trains of Alabama, which we're trying to have out in about 2 weeks, wanted to go check this out. So I picked him up and we drove out there, and it's one of those dying malls where half the stores are gone now. So what they did is in the back of the parking lot, they put up a couple of drive-in screens. And now they're using the back of the parking lot as a drive-in at night after the mall. So that's a pretty cool idea. Make use of the space. And bring back the drive-ins, because I think drive-ins are cool.
Yeah, and the snack bar. You got to have the snack bar.
Let's all
go to the lobby. All right, we will be right back after this.
Hey writers, got a short story looking for a prestigious anthology that will showcase your work alongside other top authors? Or maybe you've experienced a moment worth sharing, perhaps with some poignant meaning we could all appreciate. Fresh Ink Group is accepting submissions for our second and third volumes of the Fresh Ink Group Short Story Showcase to be released in hardcover, softcover, and all major ebook formats worldwide. There are no fees to enter. Winners are not only published, but are invited to become members with their own dashboard in the FreshInkGroup.com website. Head over to FreshInkGroup.com's Contests tab to learn more. Then grease up the old Underwood and get those shorts down so you can get your entries in sooner than later. And you readers, discover 49 wondrous tales already released in the Fresh Ink Group Short Story Showcase #1, available now in all formats worldwide.
All right, so a few words on the short story contest. You literally have a couple weeks, maybe 3. It's ticking down. We still have some trickling in. That's why we're keeping it open a little longer. Get yours in. We would love to make this a big, thick, heavy edition and get you published. If you've never been published, or if you are published and you just want to reach a wider audience, send in a short story. We'll get it in there, and we'll have some fun with this. So go to the FreshInkGroup.com website and click on the contest tab and just do what they tell you over there.
Yeah, now this anthology is going to be the second book. Short story, Fresh Ink Group Short Story Showcase #2, which means there's a #1, Beem. Have you got a copy?
I do. I have a copy.
Yeah, so all of you people, get out there and check that out. There are 54 stories in that, and there's some really, really great stuff. It's a very literary-oriented kind of a book, too. We were kind of a little bit surprised at the quality of some of the stories that were coming in. And what's cool about it is a few of those authors in there went on to become novelists and do other stuff as well. And some of them we wound up publishing their subsequent work, too. So it was a great way to discover a few people. So, Fresh Ink Group Short Story Showcase #1. Get out there and get your copy.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little plug for some of my ebooks. We've recently finagled with some of the pricing on there. These are priced to sell, so all 4 of my books are priced to sell. So get over to Amazon for the ebooks, Kindle or Nook over on Barnes & Noble. And I'm still hard at work. I got two works in progress, and one of them's getting near the end, so hopefully that'll come out soon. But I got a lot of work to do, so I don't have all this free time to write. And just keep your eyes and ears open for the new stuff. But price to move. That's the code words today. Price to move. We are going to take a break here for a couple of commercials, and when we come back, we're going to introduce you to tonight's guest.
In Journey Through the Lens, Creative Guide to Wildlife Photography, celebrated wildlife photographer Angie Birmingham introduces burgeoning photo takers to their photo equipment and helps them develop the techniques for stunning outdoor photography. From mastering exposure to optimizing focus and lighting, Angie shows how to find the right styles to tell visual stories and present compelling images. Learn landscape composition along with the best ways to shoot animals, birds, and flowers. Find out how skilled photographers capture all the details while manipulating backgrounds and moods. Order a digital copy in your favorite ebook format or collect a print edition in full-size paperback or case laminate hardcover. Available worldwide from your favorite bookseller. From newcomers to professionals, everybody who loves taking wildlife pictures will thrill at how easy Angie Birmingham makes it for you to continue your own journey through the lens.
It's 1967, and promiscuous small-town girl Lavella can't wait to get away from her controlling mother to make her own life. She hooks up with Earl, an ugly hippie, rebelling against his rich father. At a time of severe racial tensions and the burgeoning civil rights movement, Earl whisks her off to San Francisco to experience the summer of love. Acid trips, a gay love affair, and deep betrayal eventually lead to Lavella's pregnancy with a biracial child that Earl will accept, but which Earl's father won't. Lavella quickly discovers there is more to her mother's control than she ever could have imagined. Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch is a rich family saga by Carlisle Toms, author of The Calling Dream and Edge of Smoke. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch is available worldwide in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats.
All right.
Yeah, now over on X Twitter, and I've decided that's what I'm going to call it now, because it used to be Twitter, so it's X Twitter, but it's now X, so it's X Twitter. For Wayne Greenhouse posted, as a paramedic, I delivered my first of 36 babies in the lobby of the old Greenville Drive-In in Greenville, Michigan. Ain't nothing like delivering a baby or having a baby with an audience. Wow. Another drive-in story. Thanks for Wayne. Yeah, we should put out a book of drive-in stories.
Oh, there's some cool, that'd be some cool things to do. I've seen a book like that where somebody went around and photographed a lot of the old ones. Most of them were out of business by this time, and there's some YouTube channels that are like that where these people will go hunting for the old. Every once in a while, they'll find an old screen somewhere in some farmer's old field, and Anyway, all right. Well, let's bring in tonight's guest. Jan Sikes writes compelling and creative stories from the heart. She openly admits that she never set out in life to be an author, although she's been an avid reader all her life. But she had a story to tell, not just any story, but a true story that rivals any fiction creation. She brought the entertaining true story to life through fictitious characters and an intricately woven tale that encompasses 4 books, accompanying music CDs, and a book of poetry and art. And now this author can't put down the pen. She continues to write fiction in a variety of genres and has published many award-winning short stories and novels. Jan is an active blogger, a devoted fan of Texas music, and a grandmother of 5. She resides in North Texas. Welcome back to the show, good friend Jan Sikes.
Hi, Jan.
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Now, for those of you who are familiar with this podcast, Jan has been a guest on the show before. She's been putting out some great books. She's one of our favorite authors, so of course we're going to have her on. So, Jan, some people are already familiar with you, some aren't. Just going to give us a little quick rundown. You're in North Texas now. Are you a Texan? Always been a Texan? You've been moved around the country. What's your history there?
I was actually born and raised in Hobbs, New Mexico, and when I turned 18, I moved to Abilene, Texas. I had 2 sisters who lived there at the time, and so I moved to Abilene. And I always say that Hobbs is 5 miles from the Texas border, so I think I can claim to be a Texan.
Yeah, I think so.
But I've lived a lot of different places, but I've lived most of my adult life in Texas.
Yeah. Well, the true test. If somebody shows you a picture of bluebonnets and says, "What are these?" Could you name them?
Oh, absolutely.
Then you're a Texan, right?
Yeah, Indian paintbrush, bluebonnet, cactus, roadrunners, rattlesnakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jan, when you're not writing and you're not out promoting your books, do you have any hobbies? What do you like to do to unwind?
Well, I read. I love to read, and I still do. I read a lot of books, and I read in all different genres. I don't just read in one. That would be boring to me. So I read, and I still like to hear live music as often as I can, and COVID kind of changed all of that as far as the live music for me. I used to go almost every weekend somewhere to hear live music and to hear my friends play, and COVID stopped so much of that. It has kind of been hard to get back in the groove, but I'm going to go every once in a while when I can, and love the music and love the music festivals. But yeah, that's kind of what I do with my free time. And then, of course, I have 5 grandchildren, so there's always activities going on. There's always my oldest grandson has gone off to college. My next oldest grandson is in the marching band in high school as a freshman, so I like to go to the football games and stay till after halftime, and then I leave.
Jan, you are talking directly to the choir, because I'm spending my Friday nights watching the band until about 10 minutes after halftime, and then I kind of sneak out.
Yeah, well, I don't want to have to fight the traffic when everybody's leaving. So.
Mm-hmm. Mine plays drums. What does yours play?
He plays the tuba.
Oh, cool. Tuba, yeah.
He picked the biggest instrument he could find, I guess.
Yeah, well, mine plays the quad drums, so he's carrying 40 pounds on his shoulders while he's marching all over that field. Yeah.
That one's big.
That's a big one.
It's fun to watch him, and I love to go watch him. And he always gets a big smile, when he sees me. He knows I'm there.
Yeah. Well, the atmosphere at Friday night football games is, I don't know so much about the North because I never went to them up there, but down here in the South, it's a big party. And they get real serious. Deal. And boy, you better be wearing your shirt saying that you're a band mom and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool.
I have my Royal Pride band shirt, and it has Gran on it.
I know. I can picture it perfectly. Now, Jan, when people read your books that we published, which is the Bargainers series, you get to the back of the book and you see there's a whole bunch of other books in there by Jan Sikes, and we're going to try to talk about some of those tonight. But there's also music for sale. So what's the story behind the music? And I know it's not a short story, but what's the deal? You're selling music too?
Yeah, it's not a short story, but I'll make it short.
Yeah.
My late husband was a lifetime singer-songwriter musician, and so after he passed away, of course I have all of his music, and I didn't want to just let it die out. So when I wrote the 4 books that was our true story, I released a music CD with each book that matched the time period for that book. So, for instance, with the first book, Flowers and Stone, the music CD that I produced and released for that was taken off of 45 RPM records. So you can still hear some of the scratches and the pops and all that you get off of a record
adds
player.
The charm to the music, though.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It really does.
Yeah. A little ambiance, but so that's what I decided to do, because it was a way to keep promoting the music along with the books, and so they are original music, and that's why I did that, because I wanted to keep the music alive with the story.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm getting ready to start producing some music over the next year or so, too, and I've been thinking about a couple of things that might actually fit with stories. So who knows? We might be forging some paths into the future with new ways of doing media.
Yeah, I like that.
One of my favorite episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond centered around the father, Frank, his record collection, his jazz record collection that he loved. One of the sons, Raymond or Robert, I can't remember which, put it too close to the register and the records got melted. So Ray went out and bought him all those albums back in CD, and Frank refused to listen to them. And they were trying to figure out why. And he went and found some old used versions of them on vinyl, and he would listen to them, and you'd hear the hits, the pop, the scratches, and that's what he loved about it. That's the warmth of the music.
Yeah, Peter Boyle.
Yeah, Peter Boyle, and just a great one.
Good.
All right.
Great character.
So how about we play a commercial for Beggar's Bargain and talk about that?
Okay.
All right.
A shocking proposal that changes everything. Desperate to honor his father's dying wish, Lakin Martin vows to do whatever it takes to save the family farm. Once the Army discharges him following World War II, Lakin returns to Missouri to find his legacy in shambles and in jeopardy. A foreclosure notice from the bank doubles the threat. He appeals to the local banker for more time, a chance to rebuild, plant, and harvest crops, and time to heal far away from the noise of bombs and gunfire. But the banker firmly denies his request. Now what? Then the banker makes an alternative proposition: marry his unwanted daughter, Sarah Beth, in exchange for a 2-year extension. Out of options, money, and time, Lakin agrees to the bargain. Now he has 2 years to make a living off the land while he shares his life with a stranger. Read A Beggar's Bargain, Book 1 in the Bargainer series by best-selling author Jan Sikes. Available worldwide from multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. A Beggar's Bargain by Jan Sikes.
All right. So, Jan, tell us about A Beggar's Bargain. What's this story about?
Well, so like the commercial said, this man had returned home from World War II, and he was the sole heir to the family farm. His folks had passed away, and so he came back, and the farm is in disrepair. It's run down, and he has no money. And then he discovers that there is a bank loan and a threat of a foreclosure. So when he goes in to meet with the banker to try to negotiate for more time, he will not budge, but then makes the proposal about marrying his daughter. So it was kind of, I didn't even remember that the idea came to me. It was a line in a song, and I listen to music when I'm in the car. I listen to the radio. I listen to music a lot. And this one line in the song said, "It's fool's gold and a beggar's bargain." And I thought, wow, a beggar's bargain. I wonder what that would be. But I wrote it down, and that was how the story started. And then all of the other little pieces to it started coming in, and the characters started talking to me and telling me their story. And so it was a lot of fun to write. It was my first attempt at historical fiction, and really, really did enjoy stepping back into that time period where things were quite different. There were no cell phones. In fact, there were very few telephones even, and especially in the rural areas. And so it was just a very much simpler way of life. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed taking that journey back to a different time. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all came around. And then I really thought A Beggar's Bargain would be a standalone, only just one book. But
that didn't work out. Yeah, that happens sometimes with writers. So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's interesting that it was just a line from a song, and it developed into this. I mean, we've had so many authors on here that's the creative process. I myself have numerous short stories that come from a line that I heard somebody say in the store or at the bank,
yes,
or a line from some show on TV, and wow, hey, that's a cool line. Let me build something around that.
Ditto images. I have a lot of stories that are based on just seeing an image and having it trigger something.
Right. Yeah. It can come from anywhere. When you're open to that, when you're opening that creative valve, it can just flow from anywhere.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so I had the title. I knew that had to be the title of the book, but I didn't know what the story was going to be, and so that kind of had to trickle in. And it's an amazing process. And sometimes I wonder, are these people really real? And are they communicating from the other world that they want their story told, so they find somebody who'll tell it?
I get that feeling sometimes.
I do too. I mean, it's like, well, who are these people, and why are they talking to me?
See, I get into writing things, and I can hear their voices. I can hear it. I can hear the dialect, the accent.
Yes,
I can hear it.
Yeah, me too. Same thing. I mean, I can hear them in my head. I know what they sound like. I know what they look like. But transferring that from your head to paper is sometimes challenging.
Yeah, especially
you
with
see it and you hear it, but getting it across.
Especially like you pointed out, the historical fiction aspect, because you got to know the time period. So there's going to be some research too, and when you dig into it, and at least for me, when I start digging into the research, those characters become even louder. They're saying, that's where I live. You know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of details that people who didn't live through times just don't know. I was around a couple of teenagers this week, and I referred to somebody having a party line back in the day. No clue what I was talking about, and I had to explain it to them. And it's like, are you serious? A whole bunch of houses in an area shared one phone line, and you can pick up the phone and listen to other people talking? And, oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're going to write a story then and you don't have a party line, it's not going to be authentic.
You do. And you want it to be authentic, and you want it to be believable. And I had been through Missouri, but I had never been to Missouri. And so I went.
Well put.
I wanted to see the area. I wanted to see what it looked like. I wanted to, and I really lucked out in meeting a woman who she's the head of the genealogy society there in Greenfield, Missouri, and she was just wonderful. She took me around. She showed me all kinds of places, told me all kinds of stories, took me back to the library, let me look through newspapers on microfilm, and it was a fantastic way to do the research. That's not always possible, but it was for me, and I really loved that hands-on research.
Yeah, definitely.
We do have a caller on hold. This is Patricia Guthrie. She usually has a pretty good question or two, so we'll bring Patricia in. Hello, Patricia. Do you have a question for tonight's guest?
Hi, Pat.
Hi. I have a comment.
Okay, that'll work.
I have a book here, and it's called Discoveries, Poetry and Art by Rick and Jan Sikes. Do you remember that book?
Oh, absolutely.
It was wonderful.
Of course I remember it.
It is so cool. Those poems are so poignant and so cool.
So after I had written the 4 books of telling the true story, then I published the book of poetry and art because it just brought it all full circle. And I felt like it was a beautiful book that needed to be published. So I wrote a few of my own poems. I put a few of them in the back of the book so that I could publish it as Rick and Jan Sikes.
I know. It was wonderful. I was just reading through it again. I think I bought it when you published it back in 1916. Listen to me. 2016.
2016. Yes. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, and I read one of those other books too. I'm not sure which one. It wasn't Convent of the Rose. I think. I know your husband was home by then, so it must have been the one after that.
Must have been Home at Last.
Yeah, I think it was.
Well, thank you. Thank you for reading them.
Oh, you're welcome. I give you a review too. I believe I did.
Oh,
but
wonderful.
Back then, I'm not sure what I was doing, but yeah.
Well, we've all slept since then.
I know it. I slept for a whole year. Didn't do anything. But I just love it.
Well, the book you're enjoying
there,
Pat,
to you.
Sounds like a wonderful coda to a heartfelt story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is.
Thanks for calling in, Patricia.
Yeah,
we'll
put you on hold.
Nice to talk to you. Yes,
we'll put you on hold
nice.
so you can keep listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Jan. Nice talking to you.
Oh, thank you, hon. It's good to hear from you.
Okay, bye-bye.
safe.
All right. Okay, so nothing over on Twitter. Let's see. Nope. Okay. All right, so we're going to play the new commercial for A Noble Bargain, and we'll talk about that one when we come back.
Okay.
A true testament of character, resilience, and the magic of never giving up. The year is 1948, and folks in the sawmill town of Crossett, Arkansas work hard and play hard. Oliver Quinn does both. Oliver is the son of Irish immigrants who firmly believe in pursuing the American dream. His deepest desire is to play Major League Baseball. He only needs one chance to prove himself. Rose Blaine is living in a nightmare where dreams don't exist. She's suffered for years at the hands of her violent moonshiner father and his partner. During a brutal attack, she must fight back or die. The aftermath is devastating. Fueled by desperation, Rose strikes a life-changing bargain with Oliver. If he'll take her and her brother to St. Louis, Missouri, she'll introduce Oliver to her uncle, a baseball legend. While their journey is fraught with unseen perils, they forge an unbreakable bond and make surprising allies. When destiny throws them a curveball, they must find the courage to create a hopeful future out of the ashes of shattered dreams with newfound fortitude. Read A Noble Bargain, Book 2 following A Beggar's Bargain in the Bargainer series by best-selling author Jan Sikes. A Beggar's Bargain and A Noble Bargain are available worldwide from multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. The Bargainer Series by Jan Sikes.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
So can you expand on that a little bit for us, Jan?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, A Beggar's Bargain I thought was going to be a standalone. I did not know it was going to be a series, and or it would turn into a series. But I was driving home from Lubbock. I had gone to visit my sister and was driving back home, and I swear to you, these characters started talking to me. Oliver Quinn, I knew his name. I knew he was Irish. I knew, and then Rose was. I mean, they started talking to me and telling me their story, and I'm like, oh boy, okay, here we go. So it does start out in Arkansas, and it winds up in Missouri. So now I have two states where that are involved with this particular book. But I needed a sawmill town. Oliver worked in the sawmill, and I knew he did, but he didn't work inside the mill. He worked out loading train cars with the lumber. So I did some research and found Crossett, and I actually went to visit. I actually went to Crossett, did some research. They still have the sawmill. It was bought by Georgia Pacific many years ago, so it's no longer the Crossett sawmill. Huge operation, huge. I mean, they run a lot of lumber through there. But anyway, I started working on the story, putting it together and figuring out what the bargain needed to be and what was going to happen. And so it starts out kind of dark because Rose is being very abused, physically and sexually abused, and so it starts out dark, but it ends good. So.
Well, what led you to baseball?
Oliver wanted to play baseball. I'm like,
that was
okay.
That was all it took, huh? Oliver
okay.
Oliver let you know.
Play baseball.
Yeah,
He's obsessed with baseball.
It's pretty clear.
And interesting enough, when I went to Crossett, Arkansas, and was doing all the research, baseball was really big to them.
Yeah.
In those years, the sawmill had their own team, their baseball team. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, who knew?
Yeah, that was
cool.
kind of a golden era with baseball back in the 30s and the 40s.
That was America's sport. That was the American sport.
Mm-hmm.
And
American pastime.
That's what the kids played too.
Yeah.
As opposed to like soccer now and some other things that are becoming popular.
Baseball was big, and so anyway, Oliver wanted to play baseball, and he just knew that he could do it. He was good at it.
I like that Oliver tells you these things, and that's very cool until Oliver wakes you up in the middle of the night some night and he's whispering, first you stockpile some guns, and then
we're going to take the bank at dawn.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
No.
It's an interesting process. It really is. When these stories start coming, it's an interesting process.
So, A Noble Bargain is also set in Missouri, right?
Well, it starts out in Arkansas, and then because of the bargain that they make, they head out to Missouri.
Yeah.
And the vehicle. So Oliver's car is a Woody wagon. I don't know if any of the listeners remember those, but the cars were built during the time when war was happening, and there was a shortage of steel. So they would put wood panels on the cars, and it made the cars very heavy. They were extremely heavy, but so he has a Woody wagon, and that's what they start out in, and then it breaks down, ironically, close to Lake and Martin's farm. So it brings in the characters from A Beggar's Bargain. They come into the story because they help them.
Now, is this like a cameo of those characters, or do they become a intricate part of the story?
No, they're pretty much cameo characters.
Okay.
I needed a way to bring it all together back into Missouri, and also I was getting so much communication from readers saying, we want to know what happens to these people. We want more. We don't want it to stop here. So I thought, that was a good way to kind of bring some things around. Like, did Lakin actually pay off the farm? Did he actually get rid of the debt? So readers were wanting more about them.
Nice.
So by bringing these characters to them, then I was able to kind of fill in some of the blanks.
Yeah, definitely. So you when you put out A Beggar's Bargain, book 1 of the Bargainer series, you did some promotion in Missouri. You actually traveled to Missouri to the places where this story happened and met some people and did some stuff. Do you have similar plans? And what else can we expect for promoting A Noble Bargain, book 2 in the Bargainer series?
I do. I'm leaving November 1st to do a book tour, and I am starting in Crossett, Arkansas at the library. We have an event planned for the evening of November the 1st, and then from there I'll go on up to Missouri, and it'll be back-to-back events, sometimes more than 3 or 4 a day, of going around and talking with people. And I mean, it's an amazing experience. These people were so receptive. They are so receptive. And they were so excited that somebody had written a story that was, takes place there at their little town. The A Beggar's Bargain the farm is outside of Everton, Missouri, and the population of Everton is about 300. But I visited the school. I was allowed to do an assembly at the school in Everton.
Wow.
And that was one of the most amazing things I've ever done. Those kids were so interested.
What age?
They asked, well, it was the whole school.
High school?
Okay, so the population of the town is 300.
So it's one school.
One building has grades kindergarten through 12.
Cool.
So they brought them in groups, and the little kids, kindergarten through, I guess, 4th grade. There was another author traveling with me who was a children's book author, and they set her up in the library with the little ones, and she read to them. And then I talked to the grades 5 through 12 in the gymnasium. And that was just amazing. Those kids were so excited that somebody had written about their town.
So what is it that you talked about? You just told them about the book and about doing the research?
So I talked a little bit about the writing. Of course, I had to introduce myself and tell them how long I'd been writing, and talked a little bit about the writing process, and then I read an excerpt from the book and then answered questions.
Wow, that sounds like fun. Do you recall any of the questions?
A lot of them asked questions like, well, why did I start writing? When did I publish my first book? How hard is it to get published? And, you know, they just kind of asked some general questions, mainly about. Yeah, they're great questions.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I will be going back, and I'm looking forward to, hopefully I'll get to go to the schools again. And I also went to a private school in Lockwood, Missouri, and that was interesting too. There was a whole different vibe in the private school compared to the public school. Very, very structured. The kids are very disciplined. This is interesting. I loved all of it. And then it kind of wound up at a community fish fry, which, by the way, was delicious. But that's where I sold out of books.
Very, very hometowny.
Yeah.
Yes, very.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, we are talking to author Jan Sikes, and we've got a few minutes left. If you want to call in with a quick question or a comment, 516-453-9902. We're going to run a couple of ads, and we will be right back.
In 1948, 8-year-old Kay is at Oakdale, the Lapeer State Home in Michigan, where people of all ages with physical and mental aberrations come to live. Kay wonders why she is here and if she will ever leave. She cares for an infant who will not let anyone else feed her, and she has friends, especially a boy her age she calls Toe. When Kay and Toe grow close as teens, she discovers the home has scheduled surgery that will change her life. With the clothes she's wearing and the file containing her life story, Kay flees late one dark night. Toe tries to chase after her, but a fateful accident robs him of the chance to seek the love of his life. Will Kay ever experience the kind of family she has longed for? Published in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook editions by Fresh Ink Group, Nell Cooper's Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow is a historically accurate coming-of-age story about identity, belonging, and learning to choose one's own destiny. Read Nell Cooper's Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow.
A husband writes about his romance, marriage, and life with the woman of his dreams. Moments of love and intimacy build a strong relationship that cannot be torn apart by her history of sexual abuse and eventual descent into dementia and Alzheimer's. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats, I Remember Judy is a heartfelt memoir and tribute by Verwayne Greenhoe. He shares with us the joy, love, intimacy, and happiness of 40-plus years. When his wife could no longer remember it, Verwayne Greenhoe remembers it for her. In I Remember Judy, a love story.
All right.
Yep, as Beem mentioned before the break, we're talking to Jan Sikes, and you can still call in at 516-453-9902.
All right.
So, Jan, do you want to pick another book or two of yours and tell us about it real quick? I know you've got quite a few of them, and obviously we don't have nearly enough time to cover them, but what stands out?
Well, the very first book I wrote, Flowers and Stone, I think with any author, their first book probably really does need to be revised at some point, and mine really did. The more that I learned about the craft of writing, and the more that I learned about point of view and all of the things that we learn as we move through the process, I knew that book needed to be revised. So I pulled it down and did a complete revision, made a new cover for it, and kind of put it out fresh again. And I'm really, really proud of the story. It is a true story. People ask me all the time how much of it is truth, how much is fiction, and I'll use a Christopherson quote: partly truth, partly fiction. But it is, all of the events happened. Some of the dialogue is made up because I wasn't present for the conversations. But so that's one book, and even though I published it in 2013, it's now got a fresh face and much better writing.
Now, speaking of Chris Christopherson, he just recently passed away. You had a chance encounter with that legend, Chris Christopherson. What was that like?
I did. So I mentioned earlier that I love live music, and I also love music festivals. And so there's a music festival in Abilene that I have worked at for years. And the gate that I work at that festival is the gate that all the artists come through. And so that year, it's the Outlaws and Legends Music Festival. And that year, Chris Christopherson was the legend that was being honored. And so he came through my gate. And I got to visit with him briefly and have my picture made with him. And it was an incredible experience. I'm not easily starstruck, but I really was.
You're wagging your tail right now, Jan. We can hear it.
I know. And if you go to my Facebook page, I had put that picture up on the day after he passed away. And there's so many stories being shared everywhere about him, his life, his music, his words. He was truly a wordsmith, no question.
Yeah, and he had a reputation of being a very nice guy, looked out for others, helped people, gave a boost up where possible. So the passing of Chris Christopherson, we've lost a legend.
Yeah, agreed. Anyway, it was certainly an honor to get to meet him and to get my picture taken with him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we put that picture in our newsletter. Hey, Jan?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Get out there and share that. We do have a phone call that came in, and this is from the thumb area of Michigan, Lapeer and Port Huron and all that. So, hello, caller. What's your name?
Hi, Nell Cooper.
Hi, Nell Cooper. I kind of thought that might be you.
Our number one print bestseller author this week.
God bless you. I have
Welcome
a question
to the show.
for your guest.
Okay.
Does she do readings? I've had requests to, as I go out and present my book, to do a reading, and I wondered what the criteria is that she uses to select a reading from her novel.
Nell, that's one of the hardest things for me is to try to pick an excerpt that I think would be interesting. And like when I was reading to the kids at the Everton School, I wanted to make sure that it was something that kids could relate to. And so a lot of it depends on your audience as to what you're going to pick. But it's a tough thing, trying to figure out what's going to interest people. But I've found that sometimes just reading from the first chapter is usually a good, safe go-to.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Do you look to end
You're
with
welcome.
a cliffhanger or something like that, Jan? Something that leaves them wanting more?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to read the whole thing. Like the excerpt that I shared for the newsletter, it ended with a rough hand on Oliver's shoulder, spinning him around.
Yeah.
And that's where I left it.
Exactly.
So you definitely want them to want more, but it's really tough, and a lot of it depends on your audience.
All right.
That's a voice experience.
Yeah, definitely. Well, pretty soon now you're going to be a lot more experienced in that aspect of it. You already have the public speaking experience. You know what you're doing. Just have some fun with it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, is having fun with it, for sure.
Yeah.
And congratulations to you, Nell, on being the best-selling author this week. That is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for calling.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Thanks for calling, Nell.
All right, so we're running out of time here, Jan. Do you have any advice for other authors out there?
I do. If you are a author who's learning the craft, or if you're a seasoned author, my advice is to visit the Story Empire group and follow that blog, because there is so much incredible knowledge and writing advice and tips and things that are shared over there. And so that's one place you can go to find a lot of information in one place, and a lot of seasoned authors who have been doing this a long time. So that's storyempire.com. But the other advice that I have for anybody that is wanting to publish a book is, just write it, get it done, and then don't ever skip the editing phase. Don't ever. You need to have professionally edited, no matter how good you are. You can be an English professor. You can have a master's degree in English, but you still need someone's objective eyes reading your work, because you're not capable of editing your own work. I really firmly believe that.
Yeah, and the second pair of eyes really helps.
It does. And when you're reading your work, you know what it is, and the brain will trick you. So there may be a word missing, or it may be a wrong word, but your brain will see it right because it knows what's supposed to be there.
Yeah, and I think another real big advantage or disadvantage to doing that way is, what the story is going to be. You know where it's going. You know what's coming up. So it's kind of hard to tell, did I give away too much? Did I plant enough seeds about this or that? But with those fresh eyes that don't know how the story is going to turn out, they get to see it and feel it as it happens.
Exactly.
And they're the ones that can tell you, wait a minute, I was confused by this. Well, I don't know why you're confused. I understand it,
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. But that's and a lot of times people will ask me, and that's always the one thing I tell them: don't ever skip that step.
Yeah.
You've got to have it professionally edited.
Good advice.
Now, how can listeners find you on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram? Where can they find you, Jan? What kind of handles do you have? Your website, blog?
I'm on all of those places, and the easiest thing is just to go to the website, because it has all of the links to all of my social media platforms. But my website is jansikes.com, and that's S-I-K-E-S. Sometimes people spell it with a Y, but that's not me. It's S-I-K-E-S. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Pinterest, I'm on YouTube. I have some of Rick's music up on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. I made some videos and put some of his music up and has some book trailers and what have you. So my website has it all.
Yeah. And
cool.
You can also find those trailers for the Bargainers series in the Fresh Ink Group channel over on YouTube. And, of course, if you ever want to try to get a hold of Jan, send her a note, ask a question or whatever, and you can't figure out how to do that, we got a contact form at freshinkgroup.com. We'll make sure that Jan hears from you. Jan, it's been fun having you on the show again. We always learn something new, and it's like a visit to Texas.
It always goes by too fast.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, we always wind up with about 15, 20 questions here that we never even got to, but that's why we got to have you back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, speaking of a returning guest, we're going to have Janelle A. Jordan coming back next week. The author of Minority Millennials in the Workforce is now putting out The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership. So Janelle A. Jordan's going to be our guest next week, and then the week after that?
After that, we've got Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports. He's got Celebrate 98, still riding the list there after a few years. So he'll come in and talk about college football and his book and what's going on with Tennessee Volunteers football and all that good stuff. And we got others lined up in the coming weeks. Haven't got them booked just yet, but they will be booked. So because they've got books coming out, so we booked those with books coming out. So keep your eyes and ears on the newsletter.
Now, I wanted to mention, too, earlier in the show we played Angie Birmingham's trailer, the audio trailer for Journey Through the Lens. There is a video trailer for that in the Fresh Ink Group channel at Fresh Ink Group, and if you want to see examples of her photography, they're in the trailer. So go over there and check that out, Journey Through the Lens by Angie Birmingham in the Fresh Ink Group channel. All right. Our guest tonight was Jan Sikes. It's always fun having Jan aboard, and we're going to wrap up here now and play two more commercials on our way out. These are short collections by the co-hosts of this podcast, a short essay book by me and a short fiction book by Beem Weeks. So thanks again, Jan, and we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jan. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You're listening to The Voice of Indie.
Fresh Ink Group presents, from author Stephen Gies, Been There, Noted That, Essays in Tribute to Life. Observations, inspiration, remembrance, and noteworthies to share. The simple lives of everyday people in a mundane world prove extraordinary in this collection of 54 personal experience essays by novelist Stephen Gies. The eclectic mix of memoir, commentary, humor, and appreciation covers a wide range of topics, each illustrated by artists and photographers from the Fresh Ink Group. Many of these essays have appeared in other book anthologies such as Chicken Soup, or in popular magazines, newspapers, websites, and the author's site, www.stephengies.com. Some appear in this collection for the first time. Some pieces may resonate in ways that touch you deeply. Others might well remind you of people you've known and loved. Some convey direct messages you might want to pass along, such as appreciation for friendship, birthday wishes, and graduation congratulations. Several explore remembrance, a way to share our search for meaning as we grieve. From cautionary tales to poignant pokes at our uniquely human foibles, Gies catches what many of us miss, then considers how we might all share the most poignant of lessons. Been There, Noted That aims to reveal who we are, examine where we've been, and discover what we dare strive to become. Been There, Noted That, Essays in Tribute to Life, is available worldwide in print editions and ebook editions, including iBook, Kindle, Nook, and more. Been There, Noted That is proudly published by the Fresh Ink Group.
Fresh Ink Group presents Slivers of Life by Beem Weeks, a collection of short stories. A girl's hunger won't wait. A woman scorned takes matters into her own hands. Seeking peace by any means necessary. We pay attention when big events happen all at once, but everyday life comes at us in slivers. 2 boys, a girl, and secrets in the woods. Young love falls short of the dream when the monster is someone we know. Secrets from the past mirror the tragedies of today, and a young man searches for his lost faith. Slivers of Life, a collection of short stories by Beem Weeks. Read Slivers of Life in print or ebook editions, including iBook, Kindle, Nook, and more. Slivers of Life is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group.
You've been a part of Voice of Indie, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.